think we all understand that when we're learning a new skill or developing a current one, there's going to be a bit of testing and adjusting, a bit of trial and error. Inevitably, we're going to make some mistakes. And that's fine, isn't it? We're okay with mistakes, aren't we? So long as we learn from them. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, yes. Okay. Well, I want to try something. Here's a photograph that was taken in Barcelona in 2014. So I think we can all see what's going on here. One airliner has nearly landed on another airliner, right? 8 years later, exactly the same incident happens. Different airfields, but exactly the same incident. So what does that tell you? Most people at this point think, well, they didn't learn. We're not learning from our mistakes, right? Now, I taught air safety and human factors to pilots at the Defence Academy of the UK for 3 years. For 3 years, I would start every air safety course with this case study. And for 3 years, every single pilot in the room would say, we're not learning from our mistakes. But think about how many takeoffs and landings have happened in that intervening time. Hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of takeoffs and landings. And neither of these incidents were serious because of the recovery actions of the crew. And yet, our instinctive response when we see something like this is to go, we're not learning from our mistakes. And that is actually the problem. It's not that we don't learn from our mistakes, it's how we view our mistakes that I think is the issue. And that's actually because of the way that the brain is wired. So we're wired for survival, basically, which means we default to negative thinking, which means we tend to disregard positive outcomes, which means that if we make a mistake, we will take a very dim view of it. So it's not surprising, therefore, to realize that we might not be as tolerant of mistakes as we think. We might feel a bit of shame. We might kick ourselves because we think it's a sign that we're not learning. But it's actually the opposite that's true. It's the ones who are afraid of making mistakes that don't learn. How many of you have got children in the audience? Not obviously in the audience, clearly. Yeah. Okay, let me ask this question. What does a child do when you say, don't touch that? What are they? Yeah, exactly, they touch it. Why do they do that? Yeah. Because they're sent to test us, right? No, that's not why. No, because we learn from doing, don't we? We learn from doing. And because the brain kind of operates on it, if it's not broken, I won't fix it principle, we tend to learn from a negative outcome. In other words, we learn from mistakes. And guess what? You might need to make that mistake more than once for the learning to bed in. Just ask my son how many times he has left his packed lunchbox behind this week, okay? Now that's not an excuse for sloppy work. I know it's undesirable, it can be time-consuming and costly to correct errors. But what would you rather? Someone who makes a mistake more than once, or someone who covers it up more than once? The truth is, being ruled by a fear of making mistakes will not help you to learn quicker or to grow faster. And if you truly want to learn from your mistakes, or learn from the little ones before they become big ones, then we need to change our mindset on what learning actually looks like. And I think it comes down to this. It comes down to having the courage to try things that you might fail at. And actually giving it 100% of your effort and accepting that there are going to be mistakes along the way. And the good news is that we can absolutely turn these mistakes into learning. What matters is what we do with the mistake. And I think two things need to happen. Number one, we need to take ownership of that mistake. You cannot learn from something if you're in denial about it. So number one, take ownership of your mistake so that you can learn. Number two, share that mistake so that everybody else can learn. That's how we make the learning stick.